You do not fear failure. You fear how people would perceive you when you fail. If that was the case, like a video game, when you fail, you will try again, right? Exactly. In fact, most of you deliberately fail to access the terrain in order to guarantee victory. Okay, the dragon is going to be here. Let me allow him breathe fire upon my character. Alright, there's a chest in the other side. I can chain the dragon, I can trap it from this other end. If I move quickly, kill through that box, there's a 99.9% chance of victory. That's what majority believe whenever they engage in a video game. Why don't you extrapolate that same concept, apply it to your life? You can't, because you have onlookers. Instead of identifying that event as a failure, you identify as a failure. Perception is everything. Perception determines how you run your life. Perception is the thermostat that regulates what you can achieve. You and I can look at a flag. One might feel disgusted, the other patriotic. Now the same object of focus, but different interpretation. That different interpretation leads to vast result, vast achievement between those two individuals. Now if there was an opportunity associated with that flag, one person would miss it and one person would maximize the opportunity. Do you get the point? The majority of you do not fear failure, but how people will perceive you when you fail. If I trust you to an alternate universe where nobody knows you, where every single person you love or used to know is either dead or missing, give you XYZ capital to start a business, you will go, how can I make this business work? As opposed to, how can I not fail? And when you think about something, you attract it to your life. If you're always thinking about failure, if you're always thinking about defeat, if your fear is predicated upon failure, it's most likely it would happen. And in fact, you didn't necessarily fail because of what you thought, although that's one aspect of it. But the idea that you would start something and gain success at the infancy is very new. Are there exceptions to the rule? Of course there are. There are people who did something for the first time and it worked. But those are exceptions. Exceptions don't change the rule. If I say all babies have two arms and some dumbass goes, well, there's this one guy who was born with one arm. Yeah, it doesn't change the fact that all babies are born with two arms. An upscale from this is inaction. An upscale from the fear of failure is inaction, because your brain is designed to protect you at all costs. The moment the brain sees your reaction to failure, sees you in a negative loop whenever you experience failure, it devises means that you begin to execute unconsciously to avoid that experience. Majority of you, the problem is not lack of motivation. The problem isn't indiscipline. The problem is your reaction to failure. You see yourself as a failure as opposed to an event. You see, instead of seeing that activity as an event, you see it as a person. You affiliate with that activity. Majority of you have so failed that you believe you're a failure, that you believe success is impossible. If I come along and say, do you believe you will drive a Rolls Royce one day? Yes? You would say that in order to save face, not because you believe it. The majority sitting here do not believe that one day they will ride the Rolls Royce. And I'm not trying to be materialistic. I'm not trying to hinge your personality on some externality. Never. I would never recommend that. However, the brutal point I want every single one of you to sustain viscerally until you've attained things. Do not judge those things. Rolls Royce is the height of luxury. Not everybody might want to drive a Rolls Royce one day. However, be able to afford one before you can reject it. You don't tell me you hate a Rolls Royce at the front of a Toyota with $20 in your bank account. No, until you can afford that experience, it gives you the authority to refuse to decide the Rolls Royce is not for you. At least experience that activity with the skill before you decide. Does that make sense? This teaching was just to highlight your problem. Stop watching motivational videos. The problem is not indiscipline. The problem is not lack of purpose. The problem is your negative reaction to failure. You have so failed that you are now an embodiment. You detest that activity. And what way to avoid that negative experience than through procrastination? That's the reason most of you procrastinate. It's not because you're lazy, but you're so failed that the body response is isolating you in order to avoid that experience. About to do a major task, all of a sudden, the two shirts in the basket is due for laundry. The cleaner's job is alluring. Grocery, which you can delegate, you feel the need to do it yourself. The curtains need dusting. Every single place is dirty. Your tripod is broken. You need a straighter tripod. You need a camera. You hate the idea of recording through a phone. You need air condition to regulate the temperature of the room. You need. And there are endless things you need. All of this, if it's you, I just diagnose, is isolating you from failure. That's all it is. My friend, failure is at the other side of success. You can't have one without the other. The only reason you fail is because you're striving towards success, which is a good thing. 2 to 3 years ago, recall when you experienced no failure. Recall what that kind of life was. It was a life filled with depression and anxiety. The fact that you've been able to replace that negative feeling with failure is a good thing because it now means you're striving towards something better. It means you're striving towards a worthy end. You're no longer where you used to be. You're going somewhere. To keep this short, and as always, my friends, pleasure speaking to you. We'll see you in the next one.